Okay, this is a segment. This is about the Patterson-Gimlin film. Of course, this is the 50th anniversary this year. And this was a report from around 1999. Marketing a myth. Okay. Well, this report features John Kirk and Cliff Crook. Now, John Kirk, of course, is a proponent of the Patterson-Gimlin film. He acted as such with this particular story. Cliff Crook, at that time, claimed that the PG film was a hoax based on something he thought he saw in a photograph. Not on the film itself, but on a photograph. You'll see more in just a second.
Skeptics applauded, but Sasquatch aficionados freaked because the mythical hairy man-beast is worth big bucks in the marketing world, but only if there are believers. Tonight on Cover Story, marketing Bigfoot. What's at stake if he's proven a fake? Here's...
Well, the only problem is, even if you prove the Patterson-Gimlin film is a hoax, that does not disprove people's sightings, that does not disprove the footprints, it does not disprove the hair samples, the strange vocalizations, the fecal matter, and all that. It doesn't disprove all that. It would only disprove one film. Much like disproving the PG film would not do anything to the overall mystery of Sasquatch any more than disproving Roswell would do anything to the UFO mystery. So let's continue on.
Catherine Lake.
This is the 20th of October, 1967. The venue is Bluff Creek in Northern California. Roger Patterson and Robert Gimlin are looking for traces of Sasquatch.
Patterson had a book to push and a documentary he was working on. And this was the centerpiece of his documentary.
And they see a figure crouching by the stream. It stands up. They are immediately aware that this is not a human being, that this is a Sasquatch.
They had a guy in a suit, and they had him practice over and over again, practice the walk.
Eventually, it walks up into the hills where it is lost from sight.
And this becomes?
This becomes history. Well, we have 952 frames, 53 seconds of film, and perhaps the most intriguing piece of footage ever shot on this planet.
It's called the Patterson film, and for more than 3 decades, it's survived as the proof of Sasquatch existence. But in today's know-it-all media culture, this film just can't be.
Or one of the greatest hoaxes ever found.
There's no doubt in my mind that the Patterson film is a hoax.
Using the latest computer technology, we've stabilized the film so it's easier to see. For me, its behavior is definitely odd.
What's really odd is that this alleged fake is back in the international headlines for its gazillionth debunking.
There's new evidence tonight that a film showing Bigfoot may be just a man in a monkey suit.
That film is a fake.
Jump on the latest media Bigfoot bring down bandwagon.
He claims it's a picture of a fastener or clasp.
That's right, folks. Cliff Crook thinks Bigfoot is wearing a bell.
This is the location where we spotted the object.
By stretching the limits of photocopier technology, Bigfoot's nether region revealed a secret. Can't see it? Well, Cliff's produced the evidence to prove it.
These are replicas of that little bell fastener object that we found. And a little fleur-de-lis at the top, a little rectangle type handle with a little S on the side down here on the bell housing.
But this film debunker is a Sasquatch believer. He's been tracking Bigfoot for 42 years. Are you sure that that's in there?
Yeah, I'm positive. We've got computer enhancements to show. And other people aren't so sure. They think it's photographic noise.
Well, that's what it was. That's what it is. It's photographic noise. From what I understand, he found those photos. The photo in question that he's talking about is in the book Man-Like Monsters on Trial. And he claimed he saw this fastener on Patty's waist. And even Christopher L. Murphy went along with it for a while. But Chris Murphy has made a complete turnaround with this. He no longer thinks the PG film has that in it. So, And obviously Chris Murphy, he had the Sasquatch Reveal exhibit, wrote, edited Meet the Sasquatch and Know the Sasquatch Bigfoot and all that. So Cliff Crook seems to stand alone on this particular theory. Anyway, continuing on.
Once again, Cliff sees this in this, and he's taken some flack for it.
Threats in the mail, people telling me I'm the hoax artist.
The backlash came from the Patterson film believers who live on the internet, a beastly backbiting pack who'll eat doubters alive.
Now, that's a little insulting to say stuff like that, to say that we live on the internet and that, we're backbiters and all this stuff. I admit the Bigfoot community is not perfect. I admit that we do have our problems. But to say that we live on the internet, that is just, that's insulting. It's really insulting. I mean, this report was produced in 1999. The internet was essentially in its infancy at that time. It was nowhere near what it is now. It really wasn't. So, but I guess that kind of goes into the nature of this particular report. That they want to insult Bigfoot believers, and Bigfooters, I should say. The internet was relatively new at that time to the American public. Not everybody had home computers at that time. Not everybody had laptops in 1999. There wasn't even a smartphone back then. I mean, people are very connected to their phones now. They weren't back then, though. But anyway, I mean, this is just a very insulting thing to say this about Bigfooters.
That he would take a picture from a book, okay, that's screen printed and therefore full of pixels and dots and everything else, and then magnify it by 440 times to come up with what he did. That's just not possible.
So are you a believer? You sound like a believer.
I'm not a believer, I'm a concluder. What I did was I studied this film over and over again over a period of 11 years. I've read scientific analysis of this by scientists in the Soviet Union, in Canada, in the United States, who've analyzed the film and come to the same conclusions that I have, that we have a bipedal, unknown hairy hominid walking around in the Pacific Northwest and the western part of Canada.
If it is a hoax, are you going to feel like an idiot, or...?
I won't feel like an idiot because I approached it from a scientific point of view.
Debunking this film means destroying the gold standard for Bigfoot evidence, calling all other research into question. This isn't good for the groupies.
They would have looked at this thoroughly before daring to put this in print, because if it is proven wrong, their reputations go down the toilet.
Yeah, and again, I mean, to say that if you debunk the film, the Patterson-Gimlin film, that means, oh, no, there's no Bigfoot, or it calls other things into question. No, it wouldn't call people's encounters into question. It wouldn't call other parts of evidence into question. Just because if this particular film turns out to be a hoax, or what's on the film turns out to be a hoax, which I don't think it is a hoax. But even if it were, if there were no Patterson, supposing there were no Patterson-Gimlin films, supposing Roger and Bob hadn't made it into the woods, or supposing they had gotten the film, but Roger drops the camera, breaks it, exposes the film, and all he has is a story. All he and Bob have is a story and some footprint casts. How would the world of Bigfoot be now? What would there be any? I imagine it would be radically different than it is now. Because we wouldn't have that prototypical image, which, for all intents and purposes, the Patterson-Gimlin film is the prototypical image of what we think of when we think of Sasquatch, when we think of Bigfoot. That's what we think of. We think of that famous frame 354. The famous look back scene, the pose. That's what we think of when we think of Sasquatch a lot of the time. And more particularly this year, 50 years after the film was shot. So, but yeah, I mean, this report obviously is trying to make all Bigfooters look insane and ridiculous, and is trying to perpetuate the idea that no, this, whatever Cliff Crooks said or found has some credibility to it. I like Cliff. He's a good guy, but he's wrong on this. I'm sorry, he's just wrong on this.
And if everybody's invested something in the Patterson film, what's in debunking it for Cliff?
It's one of the better known photos.
He has his own Bigfoot pics that he bought from a forest ranger in 1995.
Well, some people had speculated, because you have this famous photo, that if you discredit the Patterson film, that makes this photo more valuable.
I never thought of it that way. I hope they're right, because I'd like to make some money off of that photo.
Crook's Basement Museum, Bigfoot Central, is a testament to the money made off the hairy back of the big guy by a slew of entrepreneurs. Coffee mugs, pictures, bumper stickers, images spawned from the Patterson film's definitive beastie. In the science of marketing, where the Patterson Bigfoot belongs to the species Cassius cowus.
It's a pretty well-known image. It appears quite frequently whenever you talk about Sasquatch, particularly the black and white version of this frame here.
Because that one's free?
That one's free, it's in the public domain, but the rest of the film is under copyright.
BC's Mountain Beer is here.
Does he return the empties? And if so, how?
Like in this ad campaign, every time the Patterson film is used, ka-ching! The copyright is shared by Patterson's widow, and the star of this commercial, Canadian Bigfoot researcher Renee DeHinden.
What do you think I am? Crazy or something?
He ain't crazy. He turned down John Kirk's $100,000 offer to buy the rights to the Patterson film.
This is like a treasure. It's the only piece of realistically authenticated footage of the Sasquatch in the world. And I would rank this number 2 behind the Zapruder film in terms of the amount of analysis that's actually been done on it.
And he's correct about that. I mean, the Patterson-Gimlin film is like the Zapruder film for our interest, And much like the old JFK, the movie JFK Back and to the Left. With the Zapruder film, I mean, many people have read things into the Patterson-Gimlin film that may or may not actually be in it. Back and to the left. Except people like to look at the Patterson-Gimlin film and they like to say, well, it's a hoax, or it's this, or it's that. Eric Beckjord, the late Eric Beckjord, claimed he saw a baby Sasquatch on, I think it was the back or the front. I can't remember which. But, many individuals have put in their 2 cents about this film. And there's been so much, back and forth criticism for and against it and things like that. Now, this next segment talks about the then unidentified alleged man in the suit, which we later found out was Bob Hieronymus. So anyway, continuing on it once again.
A really big kick out of hearing the so-called Bigfoot experts. Especially when you see this guy when they say he's 7'2".
Had to be double jointed or something like that.
Yeah, and he has no, his deltoid muscles or whatever are connected to his head.
What do these guys know? Well, the Patterson film is about to get stomped on home turf. Yakima was the hometown of Patterson and his alleged Bigfoot. These guys say they play golf and drink beer with Bigfoot.
Nicest guy you ever want to meet.
And he is one of the nicest guys you ever want to meet.
Yakima newspaper reporter David Wasson got the Sasquatch scoop of a lifetime.
Attorney Barry M. Woodard confirmed Friday he's representing a Yakima man who says he wore the elaborate monkey suit in the Patterson-Gimlin film and that his client has passed a lie detector test to prove it.
Does Mr. Bigfoot need another suit in his life? Well, someone has to negotiate for the rights to his story.
We've received calls from Extra, Dateline, numerous papers, radio stations.
Is he just looking to make a buck then?
If there's somebody willing to pay for it, obviously he's not going to turn that down. That wasn't his motivation.
But even if Bigfoot publicly cops to the hoax, you won't shake some believers.
I don't think there's much you could do to alter their opinion on the film, or probably crop circles, or, you know, the alien autopsy or anything else.
A creature appears to be walking in an upright position, 8, 9, maybe 10 feet tall.
It's so easy to make fun. Asserting an insufferable smarty-pantsity.
Introducing the Sony Digital 8 Handycam camcorder.
It's a grotesque human.
Single-handedly solving the world's great mysteries.
Media Culture 101. If you can't explain it, exploit it. For Broadcast One, I'm Catherine Legg.
Thank you, Catherine. I'm not. Okay, we'll give you believers and non-believers a bit of a break, and we'll be right back with State of the Arts. Stay with us.
Well, obviously, that was meant to be a this whole report was meant to be just, you know, something to laugh at believers and laugh at Bigfooters and things of that nature. You know, I suppose it's just human nature to do things like that, to laugh at what you don't understand, or maybe fear what you don't understand. You notice they did not interview people like Grover Krantz. I don't think they even attempted to interview Bob Gimlin. I don't know if Bob Gimlin would have talked to them, but they didn't even bother to attempt to interview him. They were in Yakima. Don't see why they wouldn't have interviewed him, or at least attempted it. Well, obviously, because this was, This was obviously done for comedy purposes. They were attempting to say, oh, well, all these Bigfooters, you know, let's laugh at them. Let's find something to laugh at. And I suppose that's just typical. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and hope you enjoyed the live show from earlier. You know, a lot of you tuned in. I appreciate that. Anyway, I'll catch you guys later. Y'all be good or be good at it.